Welcome to Frontlines. We're going to give everybody an opportunity to do their live streams and sharing for today's program. We welcome our viewers today from across the United States and Canada, from Europe, Australia, Cyprus, the Middle East, and of course from Armenia and Artsakh. We are fortunate today to be joined by a guest who needs no introduction, but I'm going to have Garo do an introduction. But the subject matter of today is going to be very focused. Our discussion today is going to be focused on Syunik, the situation there, particularly in the last within the last week, given the Human Rights Ombudsman's recent fact-finding missions to the region, and we're going to be discussing the realities on the ground in what is now the new border towns between Armenia and Azerbaijan. So, Garo, would you please introduce our guest, and we can jump right in.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone in the United States. Good day, everyone else, and good morning in Artsakh and Armenia. Our guest is no stranger to anyone who has been following all things Armenian, all things Armenia, and all things Armenian nation. He is none other than the human rights defender of the Republic of Armenia, Ombudsman Arman Tatoyan, who, aside from his 24/7 engagement with the tasks at hand, also happens to be an adjunct professor at the American University of Armenia and an associate professor with a PhD in law at Yerevan State University. Previously, he has been the ad hoc judge at European Court of Human Rights and a former international advisor on torture prevention at Council of Europe, as well as former deputy at government agent of Armenia before the European Court of Human Rights. And I can go on, but I'm going to stop at that. Arman, welcome. Thank you for taking your early morning moments with us. I know we have a full day ahead. You have a full day ahead, rather. Karnik, please proceed.
Arman, thank you very much again for joining us today. And what we're hearing and what we're seeing in your reports, as well as the news coming from Syunik, is very disturbing. We are learning of constant intermittent shootings being perpetrated by the Azerbaijani forces along the border towns. Can you tell us, and we know that you just completed you've issued a number of reports, a number of postings and messages regarding your visit, but that you did take a team there to do a fact-finding mission on the ground as to what is happening exactly in those villages. Can you give us, not just from a factual standpoint, but a real kind of contextualized understanding of what is exactly happening in Syunik and the surrounding regions at this moment?
Thank you very much, Garnik Jan and Garo Jan. I want to express my words of very high appreciation to both of you for being all the time with us, with this institution, not only during the war, but also before the war. And starting from the first day of the war, it was 24/7, despite the time difference. And with your advice, with your help, and this bringing to the attention of the world, especially the real situation here, and first of all to our compatriots, to the diaspora, which is very important. And I think this, and I consider these discussions not only as awareness raising, but professional, real discussions. And I consider this discussion to be among them, one of these very important discussions. Well, you know that after the war, immediately after the war, as a result of so-called determination of borders, Azerbaijani military servicemen appeared in the immediate vicinity of Armenian villages of the Syunik province, and not only in the vicinity, but on the roads that connect our communities with each other. For example, from Goris to Kapan, or Davidbek village, from Kapan to other villages, from the city of Kapan to the villages of the community of Kapan. I had the chance to visit, and we had these discussions related to my visits to Goris to Meghri, etc. But I have not, with my office, we have not visited from the Kapan city to the villages that are connected with the Kapan city with this road, and which is under the control in several parts under the control of the Azerbaijani military forces. And before the visit, by the way, I published an irrefutable evidence on confirming the fact of shootings. The fact-finding mission had the clear purpose to find out the real situation on the ground and to try to finalize our concept, because we submit regular reports to international bodies and on the real situation. And I have to say that important thing here for the human rights defender, for the national human rights institution, to perceive directly the information on the ground. And then in this case, this is one of the possibilities to increase the level of credibility of the information that we submit. So we apparently, I mean, as honestly I was expecting, we found out, and villages also submitted certain complaints, similar complaints to us, that Azerbaijani armed servicemen in the immediate vicinity of villages of Kapan community continue to discharge small and large caliber weapons. And the shootings are regular, both during the day and night, and causing anxiety, first of all, to the women and children. And we have, of course, published the evidence. And the next day of the visit, the same information was also communicated to the Shyunik regional subdivision of our office. And due to the determining of the borders of Armenia with Azerbaijan as one of the consequences of the war, the private and community arable lands of the referenced villages, pastures of Kapan, are being targeted by the Azerbaijani armed forces. And we have heard real stories from villagers when, while being busy with agricultural works on their lands, and Azerbaijani military officers may start all of a sudden shootings, and by this, of course, causing fear, anxiety to people, and creating the real dangers for the rights of these people. I think this is one of the consequences that not only this war brought with it, but also the immense hate speech, the massive hate speech, and the animosity towards the Armenian people, and the real motives. That is why, you know, since the process, and by the way, very important thing is, we have to underline and we have to realize one very clear thing. This process of determination of Armenian borders with Azerbaijan, to my very deep conviction, is not legitimate. Why? Because it has been carried out under open threats of war by the president of Azerbaijan, open threats of use of force. It did not take into account the rights of people who live in bordering areas. It is across literally all international standards that relate to determination of borders. And I would not call it even determination of borders. And our Ministry of Foreign Affairs very rightly said that this is neither determination nor demarcation, delimitation nor demarcation of borders of Armenia. Because this process, as a result of this process, use of under threat of war, use of force, hate speech, continuous hate speech, the process resulted in gross violations of human rights, of the rights of people who live in bordering areas, according to international standards. The main purpose of determination eventually is not to cause problems to the life of people who live in bordering areas, and to make sure that their rights are protected and are guaranteed properly. But here what we have shootings, which is a danger to the life, physical security, and the peace of these people. We have already violations of the right to property rights of people who live in bordering areas, because we have situations where people are deprived, they have their even cadastral documentation, but they're deprived of any possibility to use their houses, their lands. And another very important thing, because of shootings and Azerbaijani soldiers' presence there, they're deprived of using their pastures, arable lands, etc. So one has to go deep into the real motives and to find the real policy and to build, let's say, on these real motives, the whole concept, which has to have the human being, the villager of the bordering areas in the center, because if it contradicts the human rights, their rights, generally the basics or fundamentals of the international human rights law, then definitely the process also contradicts rule of law. And if it contradicts rule of law, human rights, then what is the legal ground for this process? No legal grounds.
And if I may, just real quickly, Gado, I want to ask you, Armanjan, I think that this is a question that has come up repeatedly when we discuss, this issue. You have raised it in one of your statements, and that is with regard to the speed of the process. That the speed of the process is not taking into consideration any of these valuable factors that you've indicated that are in conformity with international standards, and it's being done under the threat of force, and it's being done in a manner that doesn't allow any sort of appreciation for understanding the formative issues, the most fundamental issues, if you will, to setting the boundaries. Besides your office. And I guess you just mentioned the foreign ministry statement. Why has it? What is your opinion as to why it hasn't been able to come under control? I mean, these are issues that we've been grappling with, it seems, for a number of months, and every time you've raised these issues for a number of statements and a number of missions, and it seems to be getting worse. Now we're talking about intermittent shootings, the actual use of force, in terms of frightening and causing villagers to be in a constant state of fear. In one of your reports, you said that the military personnel were stationed less than a kilometer from a school, if I'm not mistaken. Correct?
Yes.
What's being done to try to bring the process under some sort of control?
Well, the process is very speedy and has been very speedy. You are right, which is unacceptable, because everyone or everyone who has ever dealt with the rules related to determination or delimitation or determination of borders generally knows one very clear thing. These works, they need professional, these activities, they need professional works, commission works, they need works before, because we have to check and to inventorize, let's say, what is the property that we're going to seize, whether people will experience any issues, any problems, what are the things, to how many people we will have to compensate for their loss of property. Of course, one can understand that this is sometimes, it may be for the interest of the state, but if it is carried out, if it is done without taking into account these elementary things, then again, it hinders, it delegitimizes the process. And another thing is that this, the process has been carried out with only mechanical methods. I mean, first of all, the GPS, so-called, so famous, or the Google Maps even. Everyone there knows, wherever you go, people just take their mobile phones and they get access to the Google Map and try to understand whether this territory is whether this is an Armenian territory or so-called Azerbaijani. I have to say that this is unacceptable, because these mechanical approaches may create a total hell for the population of our country. another important thing is because of these mechanical approaches, can you imagine the road goes in certain parts, for example, from Goris to Kapan, 21 kilometer. We have 4 kilometers somewhere, we have 1 kilometer, etc. It becomes kind of a territory of Azerbaijan. But then, because of these mechanical, unacceptable approaches, elementary issues are not regulated. For example, what will happen, and I launched official proceedings and I sent already official letter to the government with clarifications, what is their position. What will happen if we have a car accident, for example? If we have a clash of cars, Armenian cars, if we have an accident between an Azerbaijani and Armenian car, an Iranian car with Iranian numbers and Armenian car, what will happen? Legally, this is the jurisdiction of Azerbaijan, so-called. So does it mean that they will come and start their investigation and apprehend our citizens and start their investigators will come? What will happen? You know, these procedures are nothing is regulated. This is again the consequence of these mechanical, speedy approaches, unacceptable approaches, because they should have created all of these things. And you very likely said, we have, for example, and I published this, the case you described is in the village Nerkinhand in Gapan. The school, which is an operating school, the school is less than 1 kilometer from the place where Azerbaijanis are located. And this village also has experienced shootings. Another thing, I consider to be provocations also not only presence of Azerbaijani soldiers, but also presence the fact of that they brought and installed their flags of Azerbaijan, you know, and signs with the welcome to Azerbaijan. First of all, this is done for psychological pressure, for intimidation, etc. But this is a provocative kind of a cause or a reason to bring their Azerbaijani soldiers so that they protect as guardians their signs and their flags, you see? So apparently this is a provocation, and that is why we had a case. It was 2 weeks ago, I guess, when one of the Armenians, being frustrated, kind of with anger, etc., he opened some shootings towards the signs, and Azerbaijanis, they blocked the road. This is the only road leading from Kapan city to villages of Armenia, to 4 or 5 villages of Armenia: Srashen, Chakaten, Nerkinhand, Shikahokh, Tsav.
Arman, let me take you back. It's been 145 days since September 27. It's been 101 days since November 9. You had more than one visit to the region, to the Syunik region, Gapan and surrounding areas. Can you tell us, and I'm going to have a series of short questions, so if I can get your direct answers as much as possible. Can you tell us, between the first time that you visited after the so-called ceasefire and now, has the situation escalated or de-escalated? Are the citizens any less safe or a bit more safe, but still not safe? Can you tell us that? And I'll ask you a follow-up question.
Karojan, I don't see any difference. You know, for the first time, the only probably difference is that at the beginning it was kind of a shock for the citizens to see Azerbaijan is there, because Azerbaijan is now exactly in those places. Some were even more problematic with situations in those places from where the war of 90s started, and from where they were committing their crimes, shootings, etc., kidnapping before the war of 90s of the 20th century. I mean, 1990s.
So essentially,
right now, so the danger is there. The danger is there. I would not say this is escalation because the situation is more or less the same. With the tension is more or less the same. Okay, it is good that Russian military is there. I mean, border guards as to ensure security. We have our border guards and Armenian border guards of the National Security Service and military servicemen who are carried out really heroic service duties, performing their duties heroically. But yes, this is not the case. The case is the situation we have with these real dangers, and the situation is the same. And I think I think it will still how to say, will not have the any de-escalation. This is wrong. This is kind of would be not the proper word to use, de-escalation or escalation. The situation is escalated already, has been escalated already.
So it's not improved. It hasn't worsened. It's as bad as it was. Which to me,
as long as it goes, then it gets worse and worse, so to say.
By the virtue of the fact that it is for a number of days and weeks and now months, the consistent discomfort, to put it mildly, and the threat has a cumulative effect. And I'm glad you mentioned the Russian peacekeepers or Russian forces, because I wanted to ask you, Lenta.ru, this Russian news agency, picked up your one or two reports on a daily basis that are being issued from your office, picked up on the recent one about the indiscriminate shootings, if you will, and I'm curious, to the extent that the Russian media is picking up on your reports, what diplomatic efforts, and I know you're not the diplomat, you're the human rights defender, what diplomatic efforts, what human rights ombudsman efforts from the European Union all the way to the Russian human rights defender, if need be, are being undertaken to address these human rights violations of the villagers. The war has ended, or at least that's what Aliyev says, and he says that when it suits his needs to classify POWs as not POWs because they were captured after the so-called official ceasefire, but the use of force, the shooting in the air or shooting in the direction of the village, which was the most ridiculous thing, that they came up with lately, because everything that goes up must come down. Whether you shoot in the air or you shoot in a particular direction, that bullet is going to come down on somebody's head.
That was the distinction that they had thrown out there to indicate that this is not provocative, right?
Right. Right. And so from those shootings taking place during the daytime, which your report earlier the last 24 hours referred to, the people, villagers on the fields with their children, grandchildren working on the fields, and there's weapons being discharged in close proximity. The inability to travel from point A to point B, so the villagers are really stranded in their constraints with their geographic limitations of a particular area, and are unable to go for whatever purpose, shopping, medical appointments, etc. The soldiers guarding their signs, the Azeri soldiers, all of this, I know you're very busy. I know you're meeting with representatives from international agencies and governments. And this is not Artsakh, where people were saying, they're not going to go to Artsakh because it's an unrecognized country, but it's Armenia. So any of the folks on the ground in Yerevan that represent Europe or elsewhere, and from Moscow, have any of them had any interest to go to the region to see, to hear, and to feel the stress that Armenian citizens are under in that area?
I will start, Karojan, with you referred to the words of the president of Azerbaijan. I have to say that he's distorting all of the time, as They are generally, this is the policy of distortion of facts, really. I have to say that for the moment, since you referred to the prisoners of war, I would like just to, for
Yes.
1 or 2 minutes to stop on this topic. We have still an ongoing armed conflict. Yes, there is a ceasefire, etc., but this is an open, ongoing armed conflict. And it means that for the purpose, from the perspective of the international humanitarian law, whoever is taken, then they are as captured, let's say, then they are considered prisoners of war. Of course, there are numerous other legal arguments in favor of our compatriots that they're really prisoners of war and by no means criminals. We can never consider criminals or so-called terrorists. I've listed them, we've discussed them numerous times, but I just wanted to say that we have an ongoing armed conflict, and these people were there to perform their constitutional duties, real military service. Now, when it comes to the situation in Syunik and to the reaction from international community, I have to say first of all that, of course, we maintain and we have excellent relations with the Federal Commissioner for Human Rights in the Russian Federation. There are very, very high trustworthy relations. And from time to time, of course, I bring also to their attention what is happening. And I have to say that the cooperation, friendship here is really on the very high level, which is very, very important for me. And in Armenia, we have not Russian, because there is a confusion. People think that call everyone Russian peacekeepers. Here in Armenia, on the borders, we have Russian border guards. Peacekeepers are in Artsakh. And border guards, they do have a very important role, a vital role. And people know that they can refer if something happens to Russian border guards. Armenian border guards of the National Security Service and Armenian military forces, they also have, or soldiers, so to say, they also have very crucial role, and guys who are taking their service right on the at the borders, they do serve very heroically, and they on the very high level. But what I am talking about is kind of I go one level up, let's say, and discuss this at the level of the policy of Azerbaijan that leads to human rights violations, because these people, Azerbaijani soldiers, who are in the vicinity of our villages, who are on the roads that connect Armenian communities, civilian communities of Armenia, they are guided by their chief commander, which is the president of Azerbaijan, all the time speaking about destruction of the Armenian people, about intimidating Armenians. We have to connect this. These are soldiers of the country, political authorities of which, and the highest authorities, every time speak about they use the genocidal language, and they speak about Armenians as if the main purpose is to destroy Armenia. And I even published the words of the president of Azerbaijan, saying that Armenia is an artificially created country on the ancient lands of Azerbaijan. Moreover, the videos of torture of Armenians, of beheading Armenians, when you see these videos, we have translated all of them from Turkish. Azerbaijan, and I will publish this evidence, we have published them, but I will do it again. They use the same words as Azerbaijani president. Like, for example, there were very famous words of his very famous words. We are driving Armenians like dogs. These words, almost in all videos, you can observe these words, that we are killing you, torturing you like dogs, you know, and we have all the evidence. So one has to go into the real motives, the real reasons behind. That is why I have no confidence that soldiers of this country, having this kind of chief commander, military commander, who has all the time is intimidating, speaking about this nation, the Armenian people and the population of Armenia in a genocidal language, who committed ethnic cleansing, they stay in the borders, and so we have to be very, very calm. And I completely agree with you about this irregular shootings, or shooting in the air or not shooting towards villages. You know, I've noticed several excuses, as if this is excuses, several statements saying that, you know, these shootings were in the air, or these were irregular shootings. So I'm sorry, is there anyone who can explain to me what is the difference between irregular shootings or regular shootings? Or does it make more or less dangerous? Or is the villager in a position to decide, should sit on the sofa and decide, okay, well, this shooting goes in the air, then I can be now, I can be very calm and let's go and work further. Well, of course.
Armanjan, when you connect the dots like this, you know, and you really do a great job of connecting the hate speech coming from the president to the border demarcation issues, to the signs as provocation, to the torture videos and the language used in the torture videos, to, as we know, stamps being circulated showing the extermination of Armenians on a government stamp. You know, it makes me realize that when I hear about the economic openings, right, the opening of transit borders, economic opportunities, are we really? It sounds like we're talking about two alternative universes here. There's something completely different going on when it comes to the reality on the ground, as opposed to the diplomatic or economic diplomacy that's going on. Do you feel that there is opportunity for international organizations or international observers to weigh in on these points, or how can we push this issue? Is my question. How do we push the issue to get the players that are involved in the decision making to realize that, hold on a second here, you have constitutional rights of Armenians being violated on a daily basis. We're talking about opening up economic borders when in fact we have people living under the threat of force today, tomorrow, the next day, children under the threat of force, indiscriminate shooting. How is, I don't get the two messages. Maybe you can help me reconcile what's happening on the economic front with what is happening on this, on the reality, on the civil rights front, on the threat or use of force front. It doesn't make sense what we're seeing from the outside.
Garlic, you know, this is a very sensitive issue, and I have to say that generally these issues related to borders, this is a kind of a bordering issue. You have so many political things here, so many political components, economic, military also, and human rights. So that is why working here from human rights perspective is very sensitive. That is why I am always very careful not to get politicized or not to give any opportunity for other people, especially our opponents, to politicize, you know, our words, my words especially, and my statements.
You've been attacked directly, right, Armanjan? You've been attacked by Azerbaijan directly on these points.
So, what I'm going to say that, and I made already a statement, a comprehensive statement, that when we have in the conditions of massive hate speech, without punishing Azerbaijani authorities who perpetrated war crimes, who organized and who were undertaking this, implementing the policy of ethnic cleansing in Artsakh, without condemning and without giving proper assessment and evaluation to this phenomena, with having continuous hate speech. And these shootings in the borders, in the bordering vicinity of bordering villages of Armenia, I cannot imagine any economic development, etc. When we have this situation, when we have still when rights of our compatriots are violated, are endangered, and they continue to be endangered. Many people are deprived of their possibilities to even use their pastures, their lands. Moreover, I asked the police of Armenia to give me archive materials. Because when I study archive materials of during the Soviet period, when the railroad was operational, etc. Even before, I studied I studied many materials related to the beginning of the last century of the 20th century, and I have to say that the situation, I have sometimes an impression that I live in the 2020s of the 20th century, because the situation was almost the same. Again, shootings, again, provocations from Azerbaijani side. Of course, thanks to God, we don't have these kind of cases. But back in 2000, in the beginning of 20s, we had also kidnappings, etc., and so forth. So that is why we have to be very careful in this, and we have to be realistic. Because one of our international partners asked a direct question to me when they said, okay, you have to realize, we have to at least underline that we live in a region with these two nations. This is not kind of a building that we could sell our apartment to move another apart to another building, but these are regions, these are two nations living in one region, in the same region. Then how you imagine the coexistence? Well, I said there is one of the keys is very simple: to punish Azerbaijani authorities for their war crimes, for the violations, because impunity will lead to more crimes, will lead to the crimes, I will create more dangers, let's say. So this is the one of the simple ways to prevent crime, to prevent violation, is to punish the perpetrator, to identify, to condemn, etc.
Arman, I'm going to personalize our discussion for a minute. Forgive me. I'm aware that you have been personally attacked in Azerbaijani media by not only media journalists or whatever, but also by politicians and members of parliament of Azerbaijan, who are now continuing in that same atmosphere of Armenophobia and thinking that they can threaten you or twist your words and somehow slow down your active, what I refer to as very active engagements in terms of your duties as the human rights defender of Armenia and Armenians. Where is that coming from, and how are you adjusting to that kind of an undue irritation, if I might call it? If you can respond to that.
Karojan, you are right. Azerbaijani media has started, let's say, a big campaign because they regularly publish information, intimidating information, with the incitement to hatred towards the National Human Rights Institution of Armenia, with threats, with insulting words, very deep, I would say, based on ethnic grounds. Again, clear sign of Armenophobia, clear sign of hatred towards Armenians. But I have to say, and with the participation of members of the parliament, and I published their words, with the calls to remove the human rights defender of Armenia from the position, because as they claim, the human rights defender of Armenia hinders the peace process, creates problems for the peace process, for establishment of the peace between the two countries. Well, very funny, I would say. But what is the most important thing? What is Azerbaijani media now is doing is a part of state propaganda. they are these media, these media outlets. I'm confident that they're not independent, and these are, I mean, whatever they do, let's say, related to these topics, I don't think that this is kind of their independent policy. This is a part of state propaganda, course to remove and with insulting words, insulting articles. And very recently, yesterday, there was another one published, which is blaming the human rights defender of Armenia in exaggerating things, in providing information that is false. That is why I published the video of shootings. And by the way, they provide this information also to the outside world. The Human Rights Commissioner of Azerbaijan sends messages to the international organizations, also targeting the human rights defender of Armenia for illegally and with false information, trying to present as if the human rights defender of Armenia provides false information to international community, especially related to shootings. That is why I published this as irrefutable evidence that these shootings, the information, the evidence is true. And I'm going to publish again if I get them. And I will get them, of course. I mean, when I get them, because these shootings are almost every day. I mean, in different parts regularly. That is why I'm saying that this is, this has been always, when you study the history, you know, this has been always the case. They do the provocation, they do the violation, and they present to the world that these are Armenians doing.
You know, Armanjan, I know that we have limited time, and I know that you have an engagement coming up in 2 minutes. So I want to thank you again for your time. But I do want to say that, you know, the work that your office and you in particular have been doing has been truly extraordinary. I don't know how else to say it. As I'm speaking with you now, I look back and I remember the reports, the field missions regarding drones, the work that you did regarding refugees, the work that you did regarding hate speech, the work that you did regarding Artsakh, the work that you did regarding POWs, the work that you did regarding the border issue. The sheer amount of work that you have been doing is tremendous. It doesn't surprise me that the Azerbaijanis find you as a thorn in their side, because you are speaking the truth. You are speaking the truth at every turn, and you are doing it with such professionalism and expertise that history is going to remember the work of your office in these months, and not to mention the years prior, but in particular in the extraordinary work. It's beyond just a commendation. It's really thanking you for being able to just sheerly to expand your bandwidth to the point where you are doing all of this work and doing it with such professionalism. And I just wanted to thank you. I know that Gado has a couple of words to say as we close, but you know, we know, both of us know how hard you're working 24/7 and how hard your office works and the information that you are producing. And we encourage all of our viewers to go to the Ombudsman's website to disseminate the reports, to share the information, because the stuff that's coming out of Mr. Tatoyan's office is really of a caliber and of a detail that is reflective of the realities on the ground that need to be communicated. Garo?
Thank you. I have been looking at history to learn and have takeaway lessons from history. We talk about not looking back, but looking ahead. But how can we look ahead if we don't look back and learn from our mistakes and learn from that which we have done well, so that we can do it well again and even better. A few weeks ago, during the closing remarks, I quoted a former leader of the Armenian Revolutionary Federation, who I have been very taken by for years and years, and I have been getting my hands on everything I can get my hands on to find out more about this late revered individual, Harair Marukhyan. Recently, I saw someone that had translated some of my words from that program to Armenian, and it's very short. It said, Հայերը իրենց ուժը ստանում են ցավից ու դարաբանքից եւ իրենց դարաբանքը վերափոխում են ուժի. Arman Jan, I know you're on 24/7 because 23/7 I'm in touch with you, so I know. So and when I'm not in touch with you, I harass the guy with the full beard and a full head of hair in Chicago. But I wanna commend you here publicly, and I want to say this. I am my brother's keeper. We are our brother's keepers, and you are our brother. You are the brother of many, many folks here in my community, there in Carnegies, and throughout the globe. So as far as Azerbaijan is concerned, as far as external enemies are concerned, as far as internal critics are concerned, if anybody has a problem with Arman Tatoyan, get ready, because you'll have a problem with me. Thank you for everything you're doing, and I'll be talking to you.
Karojan, thank you very much, Arjan, and to you as well. I have to express my very deep appreciation to you guys again, my brothers, and I have to say that you are very rightly mentioned, Garot, about this 24/7 of being in touch. But the important thing, what I want to highlight, of course, I want here to appreciate my team. They have been also working under pressure, high pressure, very professionally. And I have to say that we are now even more busy because we are preparing our annual report to be sent to the parliament very soon, and there is a deadline under the law. We have no chance, but you know, keeping the deadlines and submitting to submit duly the report to the National Assembly. Of course, we will do that, but we will continue, of course, with also these works. And I want to appreciate Armenian Rights Watch Committee that has been with us all the time, not only providing professional advice to us, not only providing immediate very professional interpretations to us, once the Armenian texts are published. This is the most amazing thing. But of course, also guiding us with advice, which is very important, and we do follow, especially the front lines. And I want to very much appreciate this initiative and express our willingness to take all the efforts to further develop this initiative and to spread it as much as we can. This is, I think, in the interests of our nation. This is in the interests of the professional worlds, because you touch not only legal jurisprudence, legal issues, but also political, social, psychological, public, which is very important. So having said all of this, let me again express my appreciation. I have to say that we will continue revealing these problems and presenting to the world that the process that is being carried out, has been carried out, and is being carried out under these conditions is totally illegal, illegitimate. There is no legitimacy. And consequently, everything lacks any legal background, any legal ground, any legal basics. So this is the main message that we have to deliver to the international worldwide community, having all the legal grounds, all the argumentation. And that is why I call on especially our friends, our compatriots from diaspora, also to join to these efforts and to eventually to prevent this, or to help to bring perpetrators of war crimes against Armenians, against our nation, and to hold them liable, which is very important. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much again.